This is a podcast from the Queen City Podcast Network.
Welcome to Nerd School.
Nerds! Nerds! Nerds!
Yeah.
Suck it, nerds!
Nerds! Nerds! Nerds!
Suck it, nerds!
Nerds! Nerds! Nerds!
Suck it, nerds!
Nerds! Nerds!
Welcome to Nerd School.
I was well behaved with my budget because what I tend to do is I wait until after Christmas to buy a new inflatable or any outdoor decoration. I'll buy it after.
That's
So
smart.
I keep my eyes out because I have a few outdoors that are not inflatable. They're just wired shapes. So I have a wired deer and I have a pig who flies. And so I buy those, I watch them and go, okay, Target or Walmart, I'll see you after Christmas and I'll add a new one to the collection.
So then
But
the next
I
year,
did not.
it's all
I
new.
didn't this year. I'm trying to travel more in 2023, which means I have to be not buying out Target and Walmart inflatable stock.
Yeah, traveling costs money.
Yep.
Listen, she's trying to be international this year. If anyone wants to sponsor TVJ and her international dreams, call me.
Give her a call, everybody, and you can reach her at 1-900.
I'm trying to hop through the galaxy. I'm trying to hop through the galaxy like they did.
Yeah, you should. And speaking of hopping through the galaxy, that's right what Star-Lord was doing at this point in the movie where we left off, Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, where we left off. This is Part 2 of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 of Nerd School Podcast. It's the second.
I'm not sure how the math works out on that. This is like
2 squared.
exponential.
This is the second podcast we've done on this film. And I can't get enough of the Guardians of the Galaxy. The more I think about it, the more I just want to watch Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which I'm glad that Volume 3 is coming out. But I had a bar conversation recently with somebody about Marvel movies in general, and these guys were saying, yeah, Marvel's jumped the shark. It's too much. There's too many of them. They're all the same. They're not good anymore. And a lot of people were saying that. And I was like, whoa.
They're starting to cut down. We're not this phase was really long, right? And it just ended, but then it's like even with their shows, they was pounding us with shows, and now we get what in a couple of weeks, Ant-Man, the new one come out. Then I don't think anything else comes out until May, I believe. So everything's getting spread out further.
It is, but it's also weird. It's a weird comment because who else is coming out with movies like that right now? Right. There's no jump the shark. These characters all exist. All of them are characters that have existed for a long time. No one ever looked at the comic book franchise and goes, oh, another comic book series. Oh no. So to say that about movies is a weird thing. And Joe, I'm gonna take a wild guess. What flavor of human were these people?
What flavor?
So I'm actually trying to remember where I was when I heard. I'm assuming it was at a bar.
Because I'm gonna guess male and pale.
They're male white guy, probably. Well,
yes. Now I'm gonna say that their complaints are not about the actual amount of movies, because I've heard this rhetoric. It has to do with what they are terming woke Marvel, and I'm quoting, guys, because people don't know how to handle characters who are not white and in the lead.
Yeah, no, actually, I think the complaint was, I'm trying to remember, I'm trying to place where I was hearing this, but because there was a lot of negativity lately about it, not only just that there's a lot, but just that America, maybe it was on TV, maybe I was just listening to TV, maybe I wasn't talking, but I was talking to the TV. But there was a couple. No, so that one, I'm mixing a bunch of things. One has been a conversation at a bar, and it's just hey, wait, but I like it when they do Guardians of the Galaxy because at least that's different. It's not just Superman, Batman, or whatever. It's and I just know name DC movie. It's not superheroes with capes, but it's kind of like Star Wars. I was trying to get them into that in the conversation I had. But the other thing, I guess maybe it was on TV, maybe it was during New Year's, people complaining about just that all we are in America, we don't make art anymore. All we make is Marvel movies. There's no artistic theater. There's no new movies. There's no more good art. It was have you seen
Everything Everywhere All at Once? I think it's called.
That badassness.
Yeah, that's I think that's
But all
Yeah,
of
that
that is
probably
was
still
good.
I didn't
existing.
see that,
If you pay attention to any docket, I dare people. One of the things I try and do every year when award seasons come around, I try to watch everything nominated, right? Because I might not make it on my own, so that I know who I'm rooting for.
Yeah.
Besides everybody black. So I take time to watch shows that I wouldn't normally watch
Sorry.
because of that. But I don't
Yeah.
think people are making that effort. You have to leave your house
Yeah.
to go watch these things. And yes, your advertising is going to show you the big blockbuster things because that's what marketing does. That's what these companies are going to do. They're going to market their film. But there are plenty of nuanced new shows, creative shows, weird, funky shows. Like I was just deep diving on what's that show with the old James Bond where he was murdering people at a restaurant. Was it The Guest List? Something like that.
Yeah, there is a lot that I don't even
There
know.
are,
Like,
I
there
don't
are
know
a
what
lot
you're
of
talking
these
about.
movies.
Is
The
it
Glass
Dominion?
Onion, like there's so
Glass
much
Onion,
out
yeah.
there,
Yeah, I don't
but
even know
you
what that
have
is.
to. It's not going to come to your front door. You
With
have
Daniel
to.
Craig.
You have to opt to consume it. So I
Yeah, you
don't
have to
give
find it,
people.
yeah.
When people complain about that stuff, I'm like, are you opting to consume those different things?
Or are you looking for it? Yeah, you're right. Are they trying hard enough to look, or are
You
they
don't have
just
to try hard enough. Listen, turn on Netflix. Netflix is everywhere. They're releasing new
Yeah.
things. Any of these streaming services is releasing a new movie on a constant rotation with hella good. The Glass Onion itself. Look at the cast list for Glass Onion. That is a phenomenal cast list, and it's quirky, and it's a mystery, and it's fun. Like
but they had to add Glass Onion, a Knives Out movie or
yes,
something
to
to
get
try to
people
make
to
it feel
go.
like a
But a lot of
franchise.
people probably didn't even
That's
see
the-
Knives Out.
That's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the issue.
Like I had a
is-
friend who just told me they watched Glass Onion and they were lost. I was like, did you see the first one? They were like, no. But it was like, to them, it was just like, oh, this is a movie that's on Netflix, Glass Onion. I'm going to watch it. So you have some people who do watch, who do consume media like that. But then there's also the ones who, like TBJ was saying, like I'm sure there's a shit ton of people like, oh, Avatar. They ran to see
Right.
Avatar before they go
Avatar,
see
yeah.
any small, I don't want to say small movie, but any movie that wasn't heavily budgeted, you know? Like I've already heard people talking about the third Avatar movie. Like, I'm like, the second one just came on. Sure, they shot him.
But
And I guess the third one comes
he-
out this year.
Yeah, he
But
shot
it's
them both
like-
at the same time,
yeah.
and it's there's a lot going into this discussion. There's a lot of it that like Phase 4 of Marvel was a little haphazard, and like there wasn't like a very obvious story building or anything. It's like we're introducing a shit ton of characters, and then we're going to bring them together in Phase 5 and 6. There's also whiny men kind of being like, She-Hulk wasn't for me because it's a female perspective, that kind of
I
shit.
love She-Hulk.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't
there
finished
was-
it
Yeah.
yet, but real quick, what's Glass? Somebody tell me real quick, what is Glass
Have you
Onion
ever
a
seen
sequel
Knives
to
Out?
Knives Out? I haven't, but Knives Out is like
it's-
a murder mystery, right? Show or something.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be really
and,
funny.
And the
like a
only
comedy?
character, yeah, it's like a comedy murder mystery from the guy who directed Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which is one of the
Oh.
most controversial Star Wars films because a lot of nerds hate it because it tried to do different shit and then it didn't land very well. in
But
some
the
respects.
Knives Out, wasn't it famous for having like a ton of celebrities in it? The big
Yeah,
names?
Glass
it
Onion
had-
is
It's the
same
same
way.
thing.
Glass Onion,
the-
same thing. And
It's
it's,
just-
I
a,
mean,
it's
not
a,
the same thing, but another.
same
It's
thing
another
happened.
mystery. The same detective.
Yeah.
The only carryover is the fact that Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc is the detective trying to solve the mystery.
Did you say
all
It's
the
Benoit?
characters
quirky
are different.
detective.
Benoit
Yeah, that's
Blanc?
Yeah.
Benoit Blanc.
Okay, Benoit
It's
Balls
good,
Blanc.
Joe. If you haven't, sit down and watch
Ah.
Knives Out.
Is it nerdy?
But don't be drunk.
It does have Captain America in it.
It does. It does have
Yeah.
Captain America,
But not Captain America, but Chris Evans, right?
Chris Evans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it
But I
nerdy?
say
Does
watch
it count as a
it.
nerd
Well,
show?
No, I would if you like cozy mysteries, but that's his own genre of
quirk.
people.
And you
Yeah.
like quirky nerds.
It's not like superhero nerdy, but it
Yeah.
is. If you love mysteries, if you like playing Clue, if you loved just trying to guess who done it,
But it couldn't
that
be.
is a
It
good
could.
But
show.
it's not sci-fi in any way. It's not
No.
fantasy in any way.
So
It's not
it wouldn't-
genre.
It
I mean, it's
wouldn't
its
work
own genre, but
for our
Yeah.
nerdy, like when
it's
we do
just
a
a
break.
mystery who done
We
it.
wouldn't pick it on the summer movie thing.
You never know. We're all open to pick whatever we pick.
Okay. I
Right.
didn't know if they had to be nerdy.
We've never had limitations on our summer picks. We've all just
We
picked
just happen
movies.
to all be
Because I mean-
nerdy.
I mean, we
Yeah,
are
just
all
have-
nerds.
Yeah.
Let's note, we are all nerds, but we've
Yeah.
never said, we've just each put in what we would like to see in the summer. And some of us put
Yeah.
in dumb movies like Barbarella,
Mhm.
and some of us pick
Barbarella.
great movies. So we've never had any regulations. Otherwise, that movie would not have
You
made
know what
it
I
in.
want? You know what I want? I want a gruff and loud watch through Barbarella. I
Oh,
believe that would be awesome.
He would
Live
do that. I mean, Gruff is the whole reason I picked Barbarella, because he references
Yeah,
it.
so just
every
you and
day.
him doing that would be awesome.
He's a big Barbarella, the Flash, Barbarella. Like, he's into all that kind of old. I don't know if he's into it, but he's just seen it all when he was a kid. He grew up on that stuff. Like, anyway,
yeah, like I
good
think.
plug for the Gruff and Loud show. But let's get back into the movie, or let
All
Andy
right.
finish his thought.
Well, I just wanted to sort of talk about like the idea that Marvel jumped the shark. On one hand, it's possible there is a lot of goddamn Marvel shit out there,
Yeah,
and maybe people are losing interest because it's not as focused as it was. And there were a couple of things in Phase 4, like Doctor Strange 2 didn't like had impossible expectations,
Yeah.
and I think it disappointed some folks with how they handled certain things in there. But we'll get to that when we talk to Doctor Strange 2. It's been a lot of like series here and there. It's not been focused. It's been it includes, like, started at WandaVision, I think, right? And then
Yeah.
everything since then has been so all over the place, and it's not quite as tightly connected as Phase 1, 2, 3, all that stuff did building up to
I will
Thanos.
asterisk you and say that we know of, because
Yeah, that's true. We have not gotten to where it's building to yet,
yeah.
but but nerds are impatient.
Well, for the
so-
record, let
Yes.
me just say, like, I feel the opposite. I kind of wish everything was just a Marvel movie from here on out. I mean, I'm so far behind on Best Pictures. Like, I'm still on 1950 or whenever Sound of Music was, 1960 something.
You're fired, Joe.
So I'm still, because I'm trying to watch all the good movies, but when it got to the
you're
musicals of
watching
the 60s,
everything right now. You're watching like every Saturday Night Live from the beginning. You're watching
Yes.
all of pro wrestling
Yes.
from the 80s to the 90s.
I have an obsession with chronology. Leave me alone. But
That's
anyway,
your problem.
Oh, you're like
But-
a Chronomicon from Marvel's Agents of
I'm trying to
S.H.I.E.L.D..
consume everything, but my favorites are the Marvel shit's just fun as hell. Like, I still love it all. Like, I'm not sick of it
Yeah.
all, but I also haven't seen everything you guys and most of people have seen. Like, everybody else has seen Phase 4 and 5. I'm still on Phase. What are
We're
we
in
on?
Phase 3 right here.
We're in
So,
3.
We're
I-
clipping
the-
along, I feel, but
yeah,
I'm
the other thing
still-
I think, the other complaint is that everything has kind of started to have to be sci-fi or fantasy. Everything has kind of
Yeah.
had to appeal to like you couldn't
well, you
tell.
just made a good point about them naming that Glass Onion as a franchise to
Yeah.
kind of fit in
and
that.
the director was
Oh,
pissed about
it was
that.
a podcast. It was a podcast. That's what I was listening to. I think it was the one with Sean Hayes and Will Arnett and
Yeah.
Jason Bateman, Smartless,
Smartless, yeah.
and they were interviewing.
Well, they're going to be
Somebody.
pissed because they're not in those movies.
They're not in the Marvel universe,
And-
yeah,
But there's also they could be at some point, but I think it's also the fact that it's hard to make different classic love stories. It's hard to do the tense dramas that are sort of small scale.
yeah.
Is that fucking movie? I don't know why this is the one that's in my head. I think it was Nick Nolte and Sissy Spacek, and no, it was that thing in the bedroom where it was just a story of an old couple and a really tense family situation.
But I think we have some of those, because I think about 2 years ago, the one where
it's there's plenty
what's her
of shit
name was
out there.
nominated for, and it takes place in a hotel room. It was just last year. Who is it?
I don't remember.
It's a
but
Best
there's
Picture.
400.
You
There's
talking about the one with
400 streamers.
John David Washington and
No, but that's
Zendaya, not
another
that
one.
Okay.
So these small. This is I think it's
Just
Emma,
the
Emma
shit.
Robinson was playing this one where she hires a male sex worker, and we're working through her life as an older woman, and it all takes place in this
Mhm.
hotel room, and it's very intense
Yeah.
and done.
Right.
But I think what Andy is saying, everything has been turned into franchises. But I think that's
And-
blame studio systems. And
Yeah,
not, like,
studio systems and the
but-
streamers
Yeah.
that need attention for everything. I get why
Yeah.
it's happened, and I get the complaint is that there's so much content out there. You can make all those kind of movies you want. You're just not going to get an audience for it
But
unless
you
people
know how to
happen upon
turn it
them.
around? What people have to do to turn it around, because I hear this complaint about Black leads, and we are seeing a resurgence of it. You have to put your money where your mouth is.
Mhm. You have to seek out and find the stuff that you were complaining
Because then
about.
that sends a message to them. Oh yeah, people. Do you know how many?
Yeah,
how
the
many Black
complainers
films-
need to spend their money in the right place.
Do you know how many
or you
Black
can't
films were
complain.
told that they cannot be successful because we cannot tout a show predominantly Black and make it well? And then people have to go, oh, I'll show you. This is where
Yeah.
my money's going.
Well, that goes back
But-
to Black Panther when it came out. Like you said, like everybody in their family went to see that. It's like everybody came out to support Black people starring in their own action thing. To like,
Yeah,
say, hey,
even when
guess
they
what?
don't know
We're
what's
gonna-
happening.
Yeah,
You-
even if they
you
didn't know what it
put-
was. Yeah, I mean,
But
yeah.
you put your money where your mouth is. And I say that
Right.
like not just in movie world, but I live in a world of EDI sometimes, and a lot of people complain. And the best way to fight, if you hate what Walmart and Target is doing, what you're doing with your paycheck. Tiffany, each paycheck buys something from a Black-owned business and a woman-owned business. What are you doing? You can't just complain without action. Same thing goes in the film industry. The studios aren't going to make a change until audiences trend
Demand
different.
it. Yeah.
And the best way to do that is with your money. They don't care if you have a podcast, that's what we are, or Twitter or Twitch, and you say these things.
They don't care
But
about our podcast.
They should. Marvel should
Yeah.
totally care about a podcast. But money talks. Money
But
talks.
this on the same subject, I don't think we are too far away from a Marvel movie that could be a best picture. I mean, the actors they have in these Marvel movies do good movies. They do great movies. Like they're nominated in things, right? Like Mark Ruffalo is a good actor.
He's a hell of an actor.
ScarJo is a great actress, right? She's probably won. I don't know what she's won, but I think she's a really good actress.
It
It's
makes
not
you
like they're
wonder-
just getting bubblegum wrestlers like they used to. I don't know.
I mean,
bubblegum
like
wrestlers.
like Lord of the Rings won, like the third one won Best
Mhm.
Picture, and it kind of felt like it was saying, all right, we loved this trilogy so much that we're gonna give the third one. All right, fine,
Mhm.
we'll give you the Best Picture Oscar. We've nominated each time, and I wonder, like that's a huge achievement for a fantasy film, but it's also based on classic literature, and I'm wondering if that's
Is
the
that the
difference.
separation? Will people not give a comic book I guess, validity enough?
I think The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger won an Oscar for The Dark Knight as the
He
Joker.
did.
he did.
And I think The
Mhm.
Dark
Yeah.
Knight might have even been nominated for Best Picture. I'm not sure.
It was a good.
I don't remember.
Yeah, like
my opinion.
Batman. I can see that. Yeah, so I guess maybe.
No, I think you have to pay attention to who votes in the Academy, right? And what they're put in front of. And studios do have a hand in who they nominate or put forth for certain awards.
Mhm.
I think it's possible. Listen, Angela Bassett is a beast. They're way behind and giving her 1,000 awards. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That woman, every time she has hit the screen, she's played multiple major women in history, and we just look at her and don't give her flowers. So listen, there is room for the MCU.
Do you guys
have
think
nominations.
because I'm assuming you're kind of saying that the people who vote, which I'm not really sure, but it's just like an old white guy academy, right? Historically.
Have you never heard of that Oscar so white protest?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Something.
Yeah.
But is it better now? Like, have they done anything about that?
They're
Is
trying
it-
to
They,
do things.
a
Like,
year
even
later,
though-
it was better, and then it went back to predominantly.
But like a lot of
heavily
these
white
award shows,
actors.
like right now, I guess I was watching Gerard Carmichael on Jimmy Fallon the other night. He was talking about how like they didn't have the Golden Globes last year because no black people were like I don't know if they were nominated or they weren't included in the process. And
Yeah.
like this year, they have him hosting the Golden Globes. And like he wanted Stone Cold Steve Austin to like be in his opening bid or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Like I think Stone Cold's dad died or something, so he didn't get a chance to do it. But like they wanted him to do all of these things, but then he was like sitting there saying like about how like a lot of people in our community don't really support award shows and things like that because they're quote unquote not for us kind of thing.
Because they've
So he's
been
like
left out.
everything he
for
was trying to
years.
do, everything he was trying to do, he said they kept shooting down. But then it was like when he said, "Well, I'm not going to do it." When he threatened not to do it, they're like, "Okay, we're missing out on having like Gerard Carmichael because he came out like that just elevated him to like the forefront of like I guess young Black America, which is an audience that they're trying to capture. So for him to like not do something or threaten to not do something so white America can sit there and say, hey, we got this young Black guy who had this special, he came out, he's living in his truth. It's like one of those things where it's like you see award systems trying to grow, but
the Golden Globes is a like
The
famously
Golden Girl Globes.
the Golden Girl Globes.
That's what that should be, the Golden Girl Globes.
Yeah,
like
I'd watch that,
everyone
but-
gets a B. Arthur statue.
Everybody gets a B. Arthur head. Yeah.
But yeah, the Golden Globes are like sort of famously the Hollywood Foreign Press is what puts on
Yeah.
the Golden Globes, and they're sort of famously like sort of corrupt and don't give a shit.
Yep.
And it's weird because I mean I'm surprised that they're shooting down anything because they'd always put like Ricky Gervais up there as the host, and they just let him rip into everybody,
yeah.
and that like was the gimmick for a while for the just tear the shit out of the Hollywood surface. I think Tina Fey and Amy Poehler did the same shit with just
They
like,
did.
crapping
Ripping on everybody.
and that's famously like the award show where you go get hammered and
Yeah.
just have that kind of
Right.
Yeah,
thing,
no one
as
really
opposed
cares
to-
because the Golden Globes are just everything, right? It's TV,
Well,
movies,
yes,
whatever.
but also historically, statistically, with a few exceptions, the top wins at the Golden Globe tend to be the top wins at the Oscars.
yeah, the Golden
Oh,
Globes
really?
kind of like are
They're
like
a
the
good
beginning.
predictor.
Precursor.
It's like
Mhm.
oh, by the way, here Golden Globes are like, here is the stuff you should be paying attention to,
Yeah.
Academy, and then the Academy like, well,
Oh.
And I think
Oh.
the only time was it the year that Jamie Foxx was upset, like he had been winning everything. Was it Jamie Foxx or Denzel? One of them had been winning every award, including the Golden, but got to the Oscars and did not win. And that was
Uh-huh.
like the first time
I
in a
want
long
to. I
time.
think maybe it's Denzel. I think that sounds like Denzel.
It's one of those two.
I
don't
I
know.
feel like it sounds more like a Jamie Foxx thing, like to get
It's one of
pissed.
those two that he had gone through the whole season just killing it in Best Actor, and it was, Jamie Foxx is actually a very talented actor, right?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just forget it sometimes because he's funny. We forget that he also is the same man
Yeah.
who did Ray Charles, right?
Yeah.
But it was, I think it's like a 90-something% rate that the top winners, Best Picture, Best Actress, Best Actor, tend to be the same in both. Not on purpose, that's just how it rolls out. So you can kind of predict, but there is the occasional upset that changes on Oscar night.
Yeah, which is why people
All that to say is, yes, Joe, eventually
When those old people
Play
die, young
in
nerdy
the
people
Marvel
are going to take
universe,
over.
could
Yeah.
be, but the storyline has to have, and the reason I mentioned Angela Bassett, because in order to get it, the storyline has to take you high and take you low.
Yeah.
That actor who tends to get a nod tends to have ridden an emotional roller coaster to get the nod.
Well,
Right.
I remember being
And it's-
really emotionally moved by Black Panther when his dad died, and it was like
Yeah.
a choke.
Well, that's why I mentioned that
like,
movie in particular.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
that gives us space to see that, right? And we see it in the last one. We're not talking
Sure.
about that yet, but we see emotions happen. We
Yeah.
don't get it always in the other Marvel movies. Sometimes we do, but even the
Yeah.
way, like when we talked about the last Iron Man, even the way Tony Stark was playing his PTSD was not. They didn't go all the way in on it like you would for an Oscar win, right?
Sure.
So they tend to be lighter for the most part because who wants to be heavy at a Marvel movie?
Yeah,
So I think that would be the only trick.
Well, I think when they do Taserface, that'll be one they can really like go
Have him
deep on
Taserface.
Taserface the movie and have him be
Shoot you.
emotional. But okay, while Rocket and Groot remain behind to repair the ship and guard Nebula, and
right.
Ego's ship is filled with
Mantis.
Mantis and Drax getting to know each other, and the whole antenna bit. They have a little side bet. Star-Lord and Drax have a bet about what her antennas do. So it gives her a chance to tell us about her empathic abilities. and then developed the whole Quill love for Gamora, sexual feelings. You have sexual feelings for her. No. That's embarrassing. You're so embarrassing.
Yes.
There she go, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, and then she is learning to laugh at practical jokes. Anyway, she has the ability to put people to sleep, which might come in handy later, as we kind of figure. It's like, oh, I can put people. He helps me put them to sleep, kind of thing, just by whatever touching them, and then so we kind of make note of that for some possible foreshadowing. And then meanwhile, the Ravagers find Rocket, and he has some fun. And there's a fun scene with him effing with all the Ravagers, with all of his tech, blowing them up. And I just saw those guys blowing up in the woods, like, no,
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That was fun. Until Yondu catches him with his arrow. And he's like, oh boy.
Yeah.
And they capture Rocket, but when Yondu hesitates to turn over Quill, whom he raised, his Lieutenant Kraglin Obfonteri, who went to prom with my wife, questions his objectivity. And another Lieutenant, Taserface, leads a mutiny with help from Nebula.
Taserface.
And Nebula helps, and while she realizes that the yarrow root isn't ripe, that she's been trying to eat the whole time. And she finally gets a hold of it. Oh, it's not ripe.
And that was like one of such a throwaway gag, but it's like something like they built up just that gag like 4 times.
Yeah.
And
just brilliant. I love the little shit like that. That's why I love this movie.
Yeah. That's like the same thing with Drax's sensitive nipples coming into play at the end. It's like you almost forgot that was even a line. And
right at the very beginning when they were doing so, I have sensitive nipples. Oh, my nipples. And I have very sensitive nipples too, if I haven't mentioned that.
I'm sure the listeners really needed to know that, Joe.
They want to know. Ego is a godlike celestial that manipulated the matter around its consciousness to form his home planet. Explains that he projected a humanoid guise to travel the universe and discover a purpose, eventually falling in love with Quill's mother, Meredith. And there we get the little penis bit about Quill's mom and Drax's parents. That's a little funny.
Kurt Russell's dog.
He's like, my parents always talk about consummate, having sex. Oh, that's gross.
Listen, Drax is my favorite.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
So, and then I've heard some buzz about Drax, like he's being replaced.
Drax. It depends. We don't know how Guardians 3 is going to shake out exactly, but it's generally projected as the last of the trilogy of this form of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay.
So we don't know which characters are going to remain. Maybe we'll lose some characters. The trailers for Guardians 3 have looked like it's really going to lean into some really emotional areas, especially with dealing with Rocket's origin and
But supposedly Drax gets killed.
It's
like
possible.
There's actually a thing where they like on New Rockstar does a breakdown of like how Drax could possibly get killed. But then
there's a million ways he could get killed. But Batista's been mouthing off about being done with being Drax. It's like saying I love Drax. I'm grateful for him, but I was getting worn out by the makeup process, and I kind of don't want that silliness to be my entire legacy. But that's like a big wrestler dude who is in Glass Onion, by the way. Batista.
He is
really,
yeah. But like that's a guy trying to also make himself into a
he doesn't want to get
marketable
stuck.
commodity. He doesn't. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a limited amount of roles for a giant muscle man like that.
Yeah, right.
So
I think what he has. There's a debate recently on like the best WWE wrestler to move into acting, and
it was Hulk Hogan with Santa with muscles. That was the greatest achievement in the history of wrestling acting. Is Hulk Hogan Santa with muscles?
So what about that one John Cena did not too long ago where he was babysitting? What's the name of that?
No, wait, I'm mistaken. It's Jesse Ventura's wordless role in Demolition Man.
Lord. No, I think Batista has it though, because The Rock. Well, I appreciate The Rock. The Rock has done a phenomenal job of transitioning and being on top of it, but character-wise, like playing characters, I think give him a couple of movies where he's not Drax. And even including his time in Glass Onions, he has good timing comedically, but he also can dive deep. And I think he
Deep
has he can deep dive. So
Yeah, I
just
think
saying.
like there was a friend of mine on Twitter had a thing where he was talking about The Rock as Black Adam, which he was trying to make that movie for 15 years and it didn't do very well. And like the guy said, Black Adam is where we take everything The Rock is good at and aggressively not do those things. It's like it's everything that made The Rock a successful character and movie star. It's the everything that made people like The Rock. Let's just take all that out because that's not what Black Adam as a character is in general. I haven't seen Black Adam yet, so I can't speak to the specifics on that. But it was just like Black Adam as a character is very, powerful supervillain, ruler of a country kind of thing. It's like sort of like a Doctor Doom Namor mix thing with Superman's magic power.
Like I've seen it, and to me, what's Shazam's villain name? We'll give him something S.
Dr. Savannah.
Yeah. So Mark Strong, it's one of those things where it's like if they could have gotten someone else to play that part, like Mark Strong, who was even though the movie was shitty, I think was a good Sinestro. Mark Strong probably could have been a good Black Adam. Like he has that sort of evil edge to me, right?
The thing, yeah, Mark Strong.
When I say
he's good at being a villain, but
a villain / anti-hero, so he can do that. Like The Rock, like Black Adam. It's one of those things where it's like how Ryan Reynolds took forever to do Deadpool. He really wanted to do Deadpool because that's Ryan Reynolds. That's a shtick. Is The Rock as Black Adam, to me, it's just like a nerd liking it. Like, let's say that'd be like me sitting there saying, you know what? I want to be Black Superman so bad.
This is the thing with that's probably part of it, but probably what he built it into. But this is like 15 years ago, so this is the early 2000s. I remember because I was following nerd media at the time. It was kind of my job. He put out, like, this was pre-Twitter even. There was like he sort of put out a press release and it was like a fan poll on like the Yahoo fan poll or something, or a Google fan, something like that, where like he was like, the rumor was he was in talks to be in some comic book character. This is before the MCU. I remember this specifically because like, who should I play? The Rock, like there was rumors that The Rock was going to do something like that. Who should I play in the DC universe, Shazam or Black Adam? And Black Adam won. And in my brain, knowing what nerds are like, the only reason Black Adam won is because of the color of his skin and the color of that Black Adam is supposed to be. Nerds at that time would not. Really? The Rock would have been like, what his talent is would have been much better as Shazam. He would be in that whole thing, like Zach Levi in the Shazam movie, doing that. The Rock would be great at doing that because he'd be fun. He'd be silly. Like Jumanji is half that, where he's there's a little boy and The Rock is pretending to be a little guy with more power. That is,
he's very funny. Yeah, right.
Yeah, he is great in that. But I knew it's like I still remember going, oh, the only reason these nerds are voting for Black Adam is because you look like more like you'd be like in the Middle Eastern area. That's the
I
only
love that
reason.
you said back then nerds behave that way, Andy.
Yeah.
Still. Not back then.
It's
now the racism is
since
cured.
Then. Since then,
Obama fixed racism.
No. I mean,
it's
I'm
a little
saying,
quieter about it, but it's still very much.
There are more people willing to accept cross-racial casting than there were back in 2004 or so.
Are they?
There are more. They're not enough, but there are more. There are more.
Santa Claus was a black man. Yeah,
I mean, in my house,
there's an onyx.
Blanta. That's one of my inflatables. It's Blanta.
I love it. Okay, so Taserface imprisons Rocket and Yondu aboard the latter's ship. and
Because-
executes his what's that? And executes his
because
loyalists.
Kraglin accidentally did a mutiny.
Yeah, like I didn't
Yeah.
mean to
I
accidentally
didn't mean to do a
I-
mutiny.
I didn't mean to do, yeah. And then we see him execute his loyalists by releasing them into the vacuum of space. And there's one of my favorite guys is Tolk. Tommy Flanagan plays him.
Yeah,
He's the
an
guy
awesome
from
dude.
I love him from Sons of Anarchy. He's one of my
What?
favorite
He's
characters. on
isn't that John Lovitz? That's the ticket guy.
that's Tommy Flanagan. This is Tommy Flanagan.
He's
Oh, okay.
also
Tommy
pretty good
Flanagan.
in this show called is it in
He's
50
a
Cent
Scottish
World?
guy.
Yeah, he plays a mobster on this show called what is this? I think it's called whatever it is. It's like book 4 of the Power universe. He's like an Irish mobster. And he's,
Oh yeah. I
pretty-
hadn't seen him in anything other than Sons of Anarchy, and I thought he was great in
he's
that.
been in a lot of things.
Yeah, that guy's great. Anyway, so Tolk, and I had to look up Tolk if that's a character, and of course it's a character in comics. Tullk. Andy, what's the backstory on that guy?
I honestly don't know.
Oh, boom! I stumped the professor.
Wow, Andy, you're supposed to be like, I'll give you more on that later. You're not supposed to admit to Joe you don't know.
Boom.
Well, I don't recall his name being mentioned in the film, so that's one of the like there were a lot of characters I needed to look up for this movie, and I did let you know the sovereign people were made up. For,
Man, you didn't know that. So
the
Tulk
movie.
is Tullk. I don't know. I just looked him up because I wondered if it's Tommy Flanagan, is he a real character, and is he like a loyal? Is there a storyline in the comics like this where he's loyal to Yondu or whatever? So I didn't really do a lot of research, but I figured I didn't know. I never know if these guys are well-known comic book things that you guys have read about for years, or if they're just like a one-off thing. So I just wrote that down. But
He's a galactic bounty hunter and mercenary who accepted jobs from anyone in the galaxy, including Ronan the Accuser. That's who Tulk is in the comics.
he doesn't have his own comic like the Incredible Tulk.
No, I think he's probably. I don't see a lot based on his actual Marvel comic stuff, so I'm guessing, much like this version of Yondu, he might have been introduced after these movies started coming out in the comics, just like
Well,
taking the
then
characters that way.
we get the whole funny Taserface scrotum hat thing.
Yeah, it's metaphorical.
It's my Taserface. Your name is Taserface. Might as well be scrotum hat. It's metaphorical. No,
Wait. Do you shoot tasers out of your face? 'Cause that would make sense, yeah. But like I said last time, apparently the Taserface was actually in the comics in the 90s, and the guy who created him said his like 5-year-old son came up with a name.
That's funny.
Aw.
I love that. I still love that.
It's
whole thing.
cute.
Yeah, Jim Valentino is the creator of Taserface.
That's the creator.
from 1990.
And Ego, we find out that Ego hired Yondu to collect the young Quill after Meredith's death, but the boy was never delivered, and Ego has been searching for him ever since. He teaches Quill to manipulate the celestial power on that whole little thing where he creates the ball, and he gets to play ball with his dad, which is, what he's always wanted to do. And
That's metaphorical.
Yes. Yeah, it's a cliche thing everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
Their dad throw a ball with him, I guess. But Nebula leaves to find and kill Gamora, whom she blames for the torture inflicted on her by their adoptive father, Thanos. And the plan to destroy Thanos with every conceivable weapon makes Cragley uneasy.
Kraglin.
Kraglin. I don't know why I wrote Cragley. Oh, somebody else wrote this. I'm reading somebody's description on Wikipedia, I think. I was thinking like a pretty necklace to make the other girls jealous. That's what it says. Like
Ooh, that's
what are you gonna do with your
nice.
winnings? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the way that he like she was going through this whole thing, and he was just looking at her and just said like, "Oh," it was like, yeah, okay, whatever kind of thing. He had this like, I don't give a shit, but then also kind of like, yeah, have fun with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's James, not James Gunn,
Sean Gunn.
Sean Gunn, who went to prom with my wife.
And who I believe actually did the physical stuff for Rocket.
Rocket, yeah, we've mentioned that before. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
actually the Rocket guy, I guess. So the physical part, but not the
Ah.
voice. But yeah, and he was also in Gilmore Girls, which my daughter's really into. And I was watching. I was like, "Hey, mommy knows that guy." She's like, "Really? Yeah." She, I guess he did.
You like sit in a bar and say like, my wife knows Craiglin from
I do. She knows him. I don't think there's a lot of connections with people that are on TV. So I think it's been a weird thing for my kids to grow up, and when they were little, they really thought we knew more people than we did, just because there would be like a background person that we knew, that oh, we know that guy. So they like really thought like, oh, do you know that guy? Like, do you know Obama? Like, do you know him? Like, no, we don't know. We don't know any.
Like you must know everyone.
Yeah, we know like 7 people that have been on TV. So then now we know everybody. But when they were little, they didn't get it. Like they didn't get the difference. Now they kind of get that we're losers, but then they didn't.
No, you're not. Don Cheadle's your best friend. So.
Don Cheadle and I
Jeez.
interacted once. He rolled his eyes at me hard.
And then that started a beautiful friendship.
Yeah, we are best buds. He's going to be on the podcast, episode 751. Look out for that one when we get to it. Okay, Nebula. Okay, where are we at? Oh no.
Nebula's on.
I think you
go
want
ahead.
to point out while she's doing this and he's playing ball with his dad, that Gamora is like, something's off the whole time. She knows something's off, but no one's listening to her. So let's note that.
Gamora does and knows there's something off.
Yeah, Gamora
keeps
doesn't
trying-
trust
yeah.
Ego. So Star-Lord didn't trust Ego at
Yes,
first.
right. Yeah, right.
Gamora said you should go find this out, and then
Yeah.
now Star-Lord is trusting
Something's
him, and then
weird, yeah.
Gamora's going, nah, this ain't right.
And she doesn't
Yep.
trust Mantis either. Like, what's going on?
No.
Or, is it Mantis? Is that the right name?
Yeah.
Manta?
Yeah.
Mantis?
Because Mantis
Mantis.
starts to try to confess something to Drax, and then shuts up, and
When Gamora
like,
shows up.
eh.
She's like, what
Gives
were
her
you
the
about to
skunk eye.
say? So she's uneasy about all of it.
It
It's
was like they got
interesting.
quiet when she came out. Like
Yeah.
the environment, not the environment, the mood
Vibe
change.
changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
vibe. Catch the vibe.
Her
y'all.
intuition, her Gamora intuition.
Plus, she's also trying to deny that she has any feelings for Quill.
Of course. I mean,
There is no unspoken thing.
of
But
course.
it'd be interesting to see a backstory. I don't know if maybe in the comics, there's a comic I can read that tell us like the backstory of Nebula and Gamora and their childhood, a little more in
We
depth.
get more of that. We get more of that, a little bit more of that in Infinity War.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Gamora and Nebula play a big part in Infinity
Oh,
War.
really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, just the thought of that when she explains how, every time I would lose to you, Thanos would replace part of me with metal or robotics or whatever. Just kind of how she's half robot, half human is kind of like, that's an interesting concept, I think, for like
Mhm.
a series or a something, like
Right.
Their childhood
Even-
trauma.
Even
turned
just
into
one
a
of those
series.
things where it's like
not a series, but like a comic book series. Like it'd be interesting to read. I don't know.
it's like you see
You might be
with-
depressed after you read.
with that
it.
exchange. You see how
It's
like,
essentially child abuse, Joe.
I mean,
Like
it's awful,
Gamora-
but it's crazy. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Art Star.
like how Gamora, she has like that warrior mentality. So it's like she always wants to win. With like Nebula, who comes off harder than Gamora is. She basically sitting there and say like all she really wanted was like a sister. Like she has so much hatred in her for Gamora, not because she wanted to best her or beat her and all of this. She just wanted, a sister. It was a familiar thing for her.
Yeah,
Whereas
she wanted
Gamora-
someone to back up,
Yeah.
back her up from being
Yeah,
child
whereas
abuse.
Gamora, it was just like pound, 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 pound. I got to win. And that's also because I guess it's the way Gamora
It's also
was raised.
survival.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's survival
That was the way she was raised, yeah.
as you figure out stories in abusive homes, sometimes some kids have to figure out how to survive, and it's not pretty and it's not cute, and it does
Yeah.
it tears up a generation of children. So it would be an interesting watch, but like a faux documentary, so we could actually feel our feels when we watched it, when we go like a true crime documentary on Thanos as a parent.
Ooh.
That's what I
Yeah.
want to see.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
we
kinda
like
cool.
we do get some.
We get some,
We get some of that in Infinity War, and
but I want a full faux documentary. Somebody
There's
call me.
some-
Let's write a
There's
full
some
faux
kid
documentary.
somewhere in some small college, some small liberal arts college, writing a thesis paper on Thanos and fatherhood, and it's probably brilliant.
It probably is.
I'm sure there are at least 25 of them in circulation now.
And I would read them all. I would. The true crimer in me would be like, yes, and this is how you create monsters.
And that is
Mhm.
TBJ's spinoff podcast where she just reads Marvel theses.
There you go. On top of Two Sisters in True Crime, she also
Yes.
has this.
Reading theses while making feces.
No, no.
Well, aren't we always all making feces unless you're not eating?
Not
Like your
as
body
frequently
is
as
just
you.
making feces.
Not that we want to talk
Not
about
as
or
frequently as
now.
me. How do you know my toileting schedule? All right. While in prison, Rocket and Yondu.
Well, can I say
bond.
this? I want to
Yeah.
say this real quick.
Oh, well, on the
I'm
subject
one of those
feces?
people. I'm one of those people who believes, who doesn't believe in taking things into the bathroom with them to read. Like, I believe in I believe in fecal atmosphere. Right? So like my phone.
You don't want to
Fart.
flag it?
Like
in
I'm not
Seinfeld
sitting
when
on
they
the
flag.
I'm not sitting on the toilet on my phone. I'm not
Oh my
sitting on
gosh.
the toilet reading any type of material because I'm just that's like sitting on the toilet and eating to me.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like if you sit on the toilet scrolling through your phone.
Andy has half of his
And-
meals on the toilet.
I don't
This is
eat
a
on the toilet.
conversation you do not want to have. with him giving him.
I'm just thankful I no longer have to sit there and read the ingredients of shampoo bottles instead.
Well, see, that's different. It's the shampoo bottle is already in the bathroom. Like if you had a
But some
communal-
people put
you have-
magazine
that's
racks in their
different.
bathroom.
That's different.
That's
That's
true.
Yeah.
different. But here's the thing. Let's say, for instance,
Uncle John's bathroom reader is a
let's say, for
Yeah.
instance,
series
you
of
have
books.
you have a
designed.
roommate or your husband, your wife, whoever, right? Takes in the morning newspaper into the bathroom, sitting there reading the paper, licking their finger, turning the page.
Hopefully they can
right?
turn without licking their finger, but go for it.
That's just whatever. But they're sitting there reading the newspaper, right? They get finished. Oh, I'm finished with the newspaper. Sit the newspaper on the sink. Finish doing whatever they've been in all of that stuff. They wash their hands. They did wash their hands. They come out the bathroom and they bring out the newspaper. Do you want to touch that newspaper? Not me. Not me. Because
Honestly, if that's your partner, you've touched plenty of their fecal matter in some
But
form or another
But
throughout
here's the
your
thing.
existence.
Here's the
Wait a minute.
thing.
What are you doing, TBJ?
Your
Here's
butt
the
is
thing,
on the
man.
same toilet that their
But
butt
here's
is
the
on
thing.
to use the
Here's
bathroom.
the thing, though. It's I don't want to say it's unknowingly, but it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it's like I gotta breathe the same air as you, right? But
But
I'm
most
not
people
gonna
keep their bathroom reading. Like I think about my dad, he has a thing of like a few magazines that he reads in the bathroom. They
but they're
stay in
already-
there.
they're already
if he's gonna
in there.
read this month's
But-
Ebony,
but it's
go
like-
back and read
It's like
the next
it's
article.
like double dipping. It's like double dipping it. It's like double dipping the chip. Like you put like the fresh newspaper went in the bathroom with you. Now you coming back out. That newspaper ain't fresh no more. Cause it got fecal atmosphere all up in it.
Oh, Lord.
I can guess what Andy's thinking right now is the funny papers when we were kids.
My dad was known to tag the newspaper. You described what my dad would do every Sunday morning.
We couldn't wait for the Sunday comics, but they all smelled like my dad's ass.
Bless it. All right,
And this
moving
is-
on.
This is about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Moving on. Everybody's on their way to Ego now.
I have famously huge turds.
Yeah.
But while in prison, Rocket and Yondu bond, and Groot is too adorable to kill. The torture part is
Consistently.
aggravating when they torture little baby Groot. That's the hardest part, I think, for
Poor
me.
no guy.
But the bit where they're trying to get him to free them, Rocket and Yondu, is hilarious and fun. He keeps bringing the
Where they're
wrong
trying to
thing.
get him to go to the drawer, and he's like, "Here," and they're like,
That's
"No."
my underwear. The toe. And we find out why Groot doesn't like hats. He doesn't like he doesn't like hats.
Wait, that's why you don't like hats?
This
Because
is really
you-
the conversation we should be having right now. Like that whole thing. It's like, whose toe is that? Please tell me that toe was already detached when you brought it.
if you have like a chest somewhere where you keep a bunch of severed human toes,
Yeah.
then let's not speak of this again.
That whole bit was funny. And I love because that establishes his ineptitude. So when everything is relying on him later to like stop everybody from dying with a bomb, it's like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's
So Rocket says later,
intrigued.
"Listen, honestly, I don't know."
Yeah.
if he would even-
What's
He-
gonna happen?
he is the baby part of Baby Groot is still there.
Yes.
It's freaking adorable.
dumber, smaller Groot, as Drax refers to him.
And then
Mhm.
Groot and Kraglin, the latter having never intended to start the mutiny, free Rocket and Yondu, and they use Yondu's arrow to destroy the ship and its crew as they escape. But Taserface warns the Sovereign before dying.
And
As
then the Sovereign laugh at his name too.
yeah,
Taserface.
tell
Yes.
all that hear about this. Who told you? Taserface. And she starts laughing at him.
Yeah.
And he blows up. That's just another bit that they carried on and kept
Mhm.
doing,
Yeah.
one more time on that Taserface joke. It was great.
And yeah, the scene where the arrow's flying all over the place and Rocket's just like shooting through walls because he's looking at the cameras where people are and blasting.
Yes.
That was really cool. That was the
really
showpiece
artistic and well
sequence.
done. Yeah, really cool
Mhm.
and just like gets you kind of excited. There's all these
But
cool little
the good soundtrack as well. Like
yeah,
Yes.
soundtrack helps.
like a
Everything
good
comes together well.
yeah, a good well chosen song really enhances an action scene.
yeah,
Depends
Like
on-
for
if
sure.
you watch what's the movie with the Kingsman, the one where they have the dude from the
Colin Firth.
Colin Firth, and like Freebird is playing.
Oh, really?
Like there's like an episode of Family Guy where Meg and Chris fight these kids in the cafeteria, which basically rips off the whole Kingsman fight with like the whole time they're doing it like Freebird, which I think is one of the greatest songs ever. But
Freebird. Yeah, that's great. Then we get Yondu, Kraglin, and Groot with their 700 jumps, funny faces. They're all like that. They had to do 700 jumps all at
Yep.
once. And their faces are all goofy.
But while they're jumping, the action's still happening on the planet.
Yeah.
Or on Ego.
Yes,
That's right.
Then
God damn.
Gamora and Peter dance. Then they argue, and she senses something.
Mhm.
Don't tell anybody I did this, kind of thing. Nebula arrives at Ego's planet and tries to kill Gamora. The two of them keep changing their minds between killing each other and saving each other. Just kind of a fun little, kind of bit between them. But yeah, like they're 1 second they're saving each other, 1 second they're killing each other.
I mean, siblings.
That's siblings, yeah. Ego
Yeah.
explains to Peter what? Were you gonna say
It's
something?
like, but then like that conflict at the end of that conflict, they finally get to the point of their animosity and
They finally start talking, yeah,
Yeah.
talking out a little bit, which, yeah.
Communication does wonders.
Ego explains to Peter they are the sailor. We're both the sailor in the Brandy song. Brandy, like what a good wife you would be. And they talk about those lyrics, but it's
Yeah.
so crazy. They talk about that whole song in depth, and that song always reminds me of when I was 16. I had a job at Murray's Auto Parts, and that was on the music. That song was on the music like every
I
15
used to
songs.
love working retail and hearing music.
Oh gosh, I knew that
And
song. I knew every word of that
need
song.
I just closed. Oh,
You're gonna sing the whole thing. And then Mantis wakes Drax. And it's like warning him, wants to talk to him. Gamora and Nebula discover a cavern.
Wait,
filled-
you're blushing over the fact that when she wakes him, this is the funniest part to me. He thinks she's
remember.
coming on to him.
Oh, that's
Right.
right.
And he's like, I
Right.
already told you you're ugly.
like
and
when-
then he's
Yeah.
like, "Ugh, ugh." And she's like, what are you doing? He was like, I was picturing it in my head. And while he's regurgitating.
And she said, I don't even like you like that.
Yes. That was a funny bit.
That was funny too, yeah. Gamora and Nebula discover a cavern filled with skeletal remains, and Yondu gives the "You're Me" speech to Rocket after Groot barfs.
After Groot barf.
I can't remember. I know Groot barfs.
Because they just done all the jumps and
Oh, that's right. The jumps were they're doing the jumps. That's right. And then it's like, here's
but just think about like that scene where Yondu is sitting there drilling down on all of Rocket's emotional barriers, all his defenses, everything he does.
yeah.
Mhm.
And like it's a real like emotional scene where they're just drilling down to each other's flaws that they all know each other. And it's a fucking blue guy with a red mohawk and a talking raccoon.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what's great about the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
That's
is
what's great,
because-
but it's also probably what keeps it from ever winning anything. Like they can't win an Oscar if you're a blue guy with a mohawk talking to a talking raccoon.
It could. I mean, it
Mine-
didn't, but it could.
It
It's
could.
an God damn it. Forget it.
Anthropomorphic.
Yeah. My
You don't
tongue
remember
didn't
that
wanna
year
say-
where the girl was in love with the dude from the sewer and it kept winning all the goddamn awards?
The Shape of
Oh,
Things.
yeah.
No,
Shape
not
of
the
Water.
Shape of Things. Shape, of Water.
Water.
Shape of
Shape of
Water.
Water.
Yeah.
Shape
So
of Things is an entirely different movie where Rachel Weisz completely emasculates Paul Rudd in the
oh, you're
most
right.
brutal way possible.
No, it's the Shape of Water. But so
Yeah.
never say never about a blue guy because that
Yeah.
movie was everywhere.
Like the more that sci-fi fantasy genre stuff dominates everything that gets released, the more likely we'll eventually have a superhero movie that everyone goes, holy shit, that was a really great one.
yes.
But it might have to be when someone makes a really good Superman movie or like
But
one of
then
the
also probably not
Paragon's
not-
icons.
not kind of push it as a superhero movie. Like try to get away from, like, it'll be hard to get away from it, but not sit there like, yeah, well, you know.
I
this
don't
is a
think you have to
superhero
all the way get away from it. Like we said, The Dark Knight did well. It got
Like, I-
recognized as a good film with
Yeah, I
good
was thinking about that.
actors.
And I think if you could do more rather than, well, I think Phase 4 tried to do a lot of like more standalone stuff rather than specifically pushing the next project.
Yeah.
But the more standalone a story is, the more likely I think it will be to win something. Like if they did a
Yeah.
really good adaptation of, I think it's Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman, which is like which completely embraces everything that's ever been like over the top and crazy about Superman, but it's basically like the story is this is Superman's last day. He's got some kind of poison or something. He's going to die. This is how much stuff he does in a day. And this is all the shit.
Maybe Sean
he's
Gunn's
good.
brother do this.
That could be like I could see James Gunn, the director of this, is now the head of DC
Mhm.
movie creative.
No
and it's-
relation to Billy Gunn from the
no.
He
Scissor
generation.
me, daddy ass.
Mr. Ass.
All right, I would like that quote to be in the opening. of
Yes.
this. But yeah, I like there are some really good or there's some really solid, like single issue stories in comics
Yeah.
that I think would, if you could make a movie based on that without the trappings of having to
Well, man,
tie into something, and they do that sometimes. But
yeah, they do that sometimes. Yeah, a lot of
I'm
people
looking-
watch movie and they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize this was a comic book movie, or this is a movie
Yeah,
was based on,
right.
or this show was based on the comic book," because it's like it doesn't have men in tights, so to speak.
And I think what Andy's saying is right though. Like the power of a standalone, you have time to deep dive into some things. And like I'm looking at The Dark Knight on top of Heath Ledger, it had cinematography nomination, it had best director nominations. Like if someone steps in and builds a film in this world heavy, and it can go places.
Yeah.
Heavier
Yeah,
over the
it's
top.
gotta-
funny.
right.
Well, Mantis, Ego's
Mm-hmm.
naive empath servant, grows close to Drax and warns him of Ego's plan. And Gamora and Nebula also learn the plan as Rocket, Yondu, Groot, and Kraglin arrive in an old piece of construction that Yondu once used to rob the Bank of Ascavaria. I love that they brought up the Ascavarians again.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the excavator. I forgot.
I once used that to
Man.
rob the Bank of Ascavaria, and it was like,
Man who was laying with an Ascavarian.
yeah, Star Lord
One time.
picked up an Ascavarian chick. Yeah, I looked them up. I googled the Ascavarians at one point. It was like they look like squids or something. They have like a bunch of tentacles on their face and stuff. Ego reveals to Quill.
That should never be sung in that voice. All right.
Wait, what did he say?
Hentai that show tentacle porn.
No.
Ego reveals to Quill that in his travels, he planted seedlings on thousands of worlds that can terraform into new extensions of himself, but only the power of 2 Celestials can activate them. To that end, he impregnated countless women and hired Yondu to collect some of the children, but killed them all when they failed to access the celestial power. At first,
Dad of the year.
yeah, Dad, what a great father. And he was just playing ball with them. At first, under Ego's influence, Quill fights back when Ego reveals that he gave Meredith the brain tumor that killed her due to the distraction she posed.
Isn't that crazy? My whole heart broke.
Oh, this was
In
an
that
emotional
moment.
moment, right? And Chris
No,
Pratt
I will
was a
say
good
that
actor.
this,
Yeah,
listen, I may or
Kill
may
my
not
mother.
cried at this movie.
Yeah.
But come on, like that's heartbreaking because all you've had is your mom.
Yeah.
And you were lied to by this guy saying, I loved your mom. She was like the love of my life. JK, I poisoned her with the virus.
Yeah, like I gave her cancer. Like the
Yeah.
worst thing in your whole life is that your mom died of
Because she was
cancer.
distracting
I
me
gave
from
it to
my
her. Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
But yeah, like as much as he's capable of love is like it doesn't. Ego's awful, but like
Yes.
what I like is that he did that like he said if I visited a fourth time I'd never leave. I'd give up my whole meaning thing and just to be with her. But he couldn't see that as meaning. He had to have this higher celestial spread thing, and that's
Yep.
like later Quill's like, you know, family is worth meaning. All this stuff that you're telling me I need to throw away to embrace your higher meaning, that is the meaning.
Right.
And so that was his thing. He loved Meredith, but he also couldn't
Give up his mission.
He couldn't get over his own ego. His ego had to be sated.
Yep.
And his ego was so huge because he's a fucking celestial. And
yeah, you could be. We are gods.
Yeah, be just like everyone else. What's wrong with that? That's the kicker at the end of this big old fight, and it's interesting. And
it's a beautiful moment because it
Yeah.
says something about humanity, right?
Mhm.
And all of its blue man, raccoon talking, celestial beingness. It's a conversation about humanity and how we treat others and what is important. Even the stuff with the other Ravengers previous, we don't talk about them, but you know, Yondu has a past with other Ravengers, and a lot of that he's at conflict with them, right?
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing is with Stallone, with Stakar. Yondu is kind of got a father. This is all about family in every little form,
and betraying the family systems.
Yep, and the family you choose over the family that.
You know, you have that one scene where where Gamora yells at him, and he says, "Well, like you know, he's my family," and all this. He's like, "Well, I thought you already had a family," kind of thing. So
I finally found my family. I thought you already had.
Yeah,
right.
It's this is what this is all about. So it makes me very curious what Guardian 3 is going to tackle.
To be interesting.
The destruction of family, maybe.
Well, a lot of this
solution of family.
This part was hard for me to understand. I mean, a lot of it, I just it's not explosions and whatever. And I'm reading this
exposition. You heard?
Are you saying you are not in touch with your emotions enough to handle the emotional part of the movie?
Maybe.
We'll get you there.
But this part that I'm reading in this description that I stole off Wikipedia, I want to talk about because maybe you guys got this and I missed it. But basically, it says that Ego reveals he gave Meredith a brain tumor that killed her due to the distraction she posed, forcing Ego to parasitically draw Quill's energy to activate the seedlings, which begin to consume every world. So his seedlings of his Ego life are in all these planets.
He said he planted bits everywhere.
And he said like one celestial isn't enough, but 2 celestials. Right. That's his goal. The whole reason he was seeding himself.
Find somebody else that could do it and then suck their energy out.
That's why he was killing his other kids because he had been trying to grab. He'd been populating the world,
right?
In an effort to make a second celestial. All those kids he murdered did not turn out.
Basically, he was creating. It's almost like he's creating homunculus, and like some of them are actually like they weren't viable. Where Quill was highly viable, and
that's like when Quill forms the little energy ball for the first time. You see Ego go yes, because
but he's
so excited because it's the first one in millions of tries that has actually been able to have the celestial power.
But I guess my question is, at this point, is he saying he was lying about wanting them to rule together?
He wants them to work together, but since Quill is now resisting and won't refuse to do it, say I'm going to do it anyway.
Now
you're going to be a battery.
Quill's power, okay, because he's upset about that. He's not.
Yeah,
okay. Gotcha.
He would love.
But now he has to just try to suck Quill's all power to himself.
Yes.
Okay.
They would do it together, except you killed his mom. So,
So he can fulfill this meaning he's decided on and
Right.
feels like is immutable that he can't change his mind about.
And I
it's
love
his
the
only
whole
mission.
battle between them and the effects of all that. And when he finally like melts in the sand, it's like so creepy but cool.
Mhm.
Then the reunite. Yeah, really. Yeah. Ugh. It's very creepy and cool, but and a lot of times all of his energy falls off and he has to reform into a skeleton again, and it's all like really cool effects that we didn't have in the 80s.
Well, they're trying to put him off for a while. So before he is forming or really figures them out, remember Mantis is warning them when he's close, and Mantis is the one who gives them the key to how to destroy him, which is where you need Baby Groot to fulfill a mission where we're not so sure that Baby Groot has a clear understanding.
Blow up his center core or whatever, yeah.
And nobody has any
red
tape.
button. Yes. He's like, which one? This. No.
Yeah.
Which one?
I am Groot.
He doesn't know which one.
That's very cutesy too, right? It's like she's like,
yeah.
You like, I just want to hug Baby Groot, right?
Yeah.
You do.
Well, I'm sure they sold tons of little Baby Groot stuffed animals. And
of course.
Baby Groot is what hooked my wife into the MCU, I think.
I mean, it happened to a lot of people who never watched Star Wars.
Yeah.
Grogu. Because of
right. Pop quiz. Baby Groot. Grogu.
Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Are you saying who's the cutest?
Who's the cutest?
Yeesh, that's hard.
If you had to choose, who would you
I'm
choose?
not choosing.
I'd go with Baby Groot.
Baby Yoda.
I think I go Baby Groot.
I gotta go Baby Groot.
I'd go Baby Yoda, but I don't want to choose. So, as if you put a gun to my head, they're both cute, and we can have like a Muppets nursery. Remember that when we had the Muppet
Muppet Babies,
TV
yeah.
show?
Yeah.
We can have a series where we have Baby Yoda and Baby Groot, and they go on cross.
Right.
We're coming up with all these programs.
Star Wars is a Marvel property now.
It is. So we could cross franchise.
We need to. Yes.
Life with Baby Groot and Baby Yoda, like on their own little miniature adventures.
They did just
Somebody
do
else.
a few like a little short mini series of Baby Groot shorts are on Disney
Yeah,
Plus
yeah.
as
Those
well.
are kind of funny.
That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. Yeah.
Well, the reunited Guardians do travel to Ego's brain at the planet's core, during which Yondu reveals that he kept Quill to spare him from the fate of Ego's other progeny. And he was like, I knew he was killing them all, and I kept you alive. As they come under attack from the Sovereign's drones, at this point, Wham Bam Shang-a-Lang plays. Wham Bam Shang-a-Lang. I love that becomes the theme music of the Sovereign. Mantis, because every time they come back, that song comes back on. It's kind of cool. Another great use of music. This cool music. Mantis puts Ego to sleep while they make a plan. I don't know if you can do it. I don't believe in you. I didn't believe you could do it. I believe you can do it. I didn't believe she really could. That whole thing with Drax. Rocket makes a bomb using the stolen batteries, which Groot is going to plant. And the train. Here comes the training bit and the tape bit. Anybody have any tape? I love this. Hey, do you have any? Hey, come on. Do you have any tape? Would Scotch tape work? Yeah, Scotch tape would work. I don't have any. Then why did you ask if Scotch tape would work? We don't have any. Like that whole bit is just the mundane ridiculousness of people. Is just like that Scotch tape bit is just great. Like that's
because you're like in the heat of battle.
Yeah.
In the heat of battle, here comes this bit.
Yeah. Do you have any tape? It's like a Seinfeld episode in the middle of a Marvel movie.
I mean,
Yes.
they do that like the Guardians do that a lot. Like
They do.
I'm thinking like in Infinity War, we see some like this banter back and forth.
Yeah,
while they're
that's
in the
what they
process
do
of
well.
doing
They're the
some
they're
sort of
the
heist or
friend
something.
group.
Yeah.
Like
That
I
does that well.
wonder who came up with those. Like who wrote those? Like somebody funny wrote.
James
all
Gunn
these funny
co-wrote.
bits.
I don't know if I think he either wrote or co-wrote the script.
My wife did say those Gunn brothers are funny. I mean, that's why she hung out with them. They were funny.
Yeah.
I did
Okay.
like Colt and what's the name? Gunn. Colt and Austin Gunn. I didn't like them.
Bart and Billy
What-
Gunn.
What guns are better? Bart and Billy, Sean and John. I mean Sean and James, Colt or Austin and Austin.
Well, we need
Three sets of
TBJ
guns.
to watch all of the Royal Rumbles to really weigh in on it. All right. Nebula saves the day by giving the ship enough power to destroy the Goldie people's ships. She
A Goldie people's
sacrifices
ships.
the Goldie people.
Mhm.
And she does, she like sacrifices kind of her body for the good of the cause, which kind of
She makes use of the robot.
She like, this is going to hurt.
She makes use of her robot parts and her immense tolerance for pain.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of
you
saves the
heard it
day.
here first.
That's a Donnie Bale says that all the time. I love it. Okay. And then it comes one of my favorite lines of the whole movie is I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Ha ha, you look like Mary Poppins. Is it cool? Yeah. Yes, he's really cool. I'm Mary
But I
Poppins,
love that
y'all.
moment is so sweet because he wants, after realizing what was done for him, and I think we as an audience figured it out pretty early on when we figured out what Eagle was.
That Yondu was good. Yeah.
Yeah, that he didn't keep him because he needed a miniature scavenger. But I think it's really cute that he said it as a throwaway joke, but really after thinking about it for a second, because Mary Poppins is a caretaker who comes in and changes kids' lives, right?
There you go.
Like, yeah, you are.
Yes.
Where it's cute
Ew.
because it's also a very soft moment.
Yeah, so he starts it off like making fun of, haha, you look like Mary
Yep.
Poppins. Is he cool? And then you're right, that pause there where he's like, yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah.
And then he comes down, Mary Poppins, y'all. It's just like, that's why it's great. It's just so fucking
Yep.
great. And you can't
That's Michael Rooker, ladies and gentlemen, the guy who plays Yondu, Michael Rooker.
yeah, he's great.
Mary Poppins, y'all. Just
Yeah,
the
like
way he
Also,
sells
girls'
that.
brother
sweet,
from
funny
Walking Dead.
moment. What'd you say?
Girl's brother from Walking Dead.
Oh,
Oh yeah, that's right. He was on that show.
I never saw
I've
Walking
never
Dead.
watched Walking Dead.
I didn't either. Yeah, TBJ's cool for not watching
Two
Walking
things
Dead.
we bond
Yeah.
over.
It
I
is a
tried
comic book
to. I
series
just-
now.
It's terrible.
No, it's just you know what? A zombie apocalypse might happen. I don't want to be down and have bummer days watching it on TV and then having to live through it because
Yeah.
we live in a trash
Or
universe.
Walking Dead, the zombie apocalypse is more so the backstory. It's the survival of the people.
Yes, but my point is like watching that survival and then having to
The only
survive this
thing-
trash
But
world.
here's the thing though.
also.
There are depths in the Walking Dead that would really tug at your heartstrings.
I know.
Especially because there are like such a small amount of characters that you kind of fall in love with. I mean,
But I
they
don't-
diverge
face
from
it.
the comic a lot, but it's still just like when you see like Glenn get killed, spoiler, in Walking Dead. It's like you was with them for like 5 or 6 seasons, and it's
Yeah.
like, what the fuck? How could you do this to him? know?
After
And they died
surviving
brutally.
and knowing what we are like when we have things like a coronavirus, I don't want to watch people surviving because it is heartbreaking to watch what could actually happen if we don't get our shit together. And
Right.
we aren't doing so well as humans in
Right.
America. So, that's why I watch all the fluff on the Hallmark Channel because it makes me feel good.
Clears your
This
brain.
serotonin
Yeah, clears your
Keeps
mind. Yep.
me from being a depressed huddle under some blankets because this world,
Yep. Yeah. My escape is Newhart, the Newhart show right now. I've been watching that.
Bob Newhart.
Yeah. Just at night sometimes.
Yeah,
I'll watch
I've
that.
been watching James Garner shows, either Rockford Files or Maverick.
I've been watching Yellowstone.
I've been getting a lot
Is
of
it
weird.
good? Is Yellowstone good? Is it violent?
It's not.
It's Wild West, right? Is it Old West
No,
stuff?
it's not old
Wild
West.
West.
Oh,
It's like
not-
modern day Montana or
they,
something.
Yeah, they have what
Oh.
1880. They have 1883, which is a sequel, and then they just came out with 1923 with Harrison Ford, which is a sequel. But
These
it's
are
Kevin
movies or
Costner.
TV
No, it's
shows?
TV show.
Oh.
But it's like
Yellow-
Kevin Costner. Taylor
Oh,
Sheridan.
God, fuck Kevin Costner. Sorry. I can't do no Kevin Costner. All right, cool moment. There's a cool moment of posing. This cool like action movie moment, comic book thing where they're all just kind of the heroes after the Mary Poppins moment, and then Mantis, look out! But he says that after she gets knocked out. Oh, Mantis, look out! And then we have the "ow my nipples" moment as they send Drax with Mantis up top. Oh, my nipple! Nebula saves Gamora and then says, "Get over it." Yeah, that whole thing, that whole funny moment there. Then everybody seems about to die. Drax and Mantis are in quicksand. Yondu's buried in rocks. Rocket's smothered in ego. Gamora and Nebula also are, and Groot's buried. And then at the last second, before getting buried, Yondu says, "I used my heart to control the arrow, not my head." Or
Yep.
And that kind of, he realizes at that moment, and that's
What
gives
he needed. Yep.
Star-Lord the power to kind of win the day when we think all is lost. That's how we know it's going to turn around. And we have "you shouldn't have killed my mom and smashed my Walkman." And then I think I just made a side note, all Generation Xers get excited when they see the Walkman, I think, with the orange, with the little orange buff, because we all had that. Everybody had like I remember Andy and I's older brother Beef had the one with the orange, like he had that same one with the orange ones, and I was always jealous. I wanted that one. I only had the little black ones, the Sony, there's all these different brands or whatever. And he always had better ones, it seemed like, but he was a teenager at the time. We weren't yet. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I feel like just seeing those Walkmans, I'm so nostalgic and just pine for those days where I have to rewind a tape on my belt as I walk. Like I can't leave the house. Like I'm going to my dad's for the weekend. I'm not leaving the house until I get my Walkman clipped on my belt and my headphones on, and I have enough tapes for the walk, for the walk there, the walk back while I'm there that weekend,
and the fact that you don't always have, I was talking to someone about this the other day about cassette tapes, and it was one of my teen nieces, and I was like, not only are you functioning off cassette tapes, but sometimes you would buy just singles. So one side is one song,
and you got the B
you might get a
side,
remix of the other side or a different
maxi
song, but that's
singles.
it. You're just flipping between those two.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have a whole CD, but your moods vary. Who knows what you're gonna put in there?
Well, and I just remembered several times of that.
And then you got like Raekwon the Chef, the purple tape. Everybody in the hip hop community used to love having the purple tape.
Raekwon the Chef. I was gonna say, back then I felt like there was like this need to learn all those songs. I can't learn all the words unless I listen to this song 5,500 times.
You rewind it. You
rewind and play it again. You play it again.
Wait, I missed the part.
And with a single, the cool thing with a single, if it had a different version on the back, you just flip it over, listen to that, flip it back over, then flip it back over. I'm gonna get the words down. I remember writing down the word, like trying to write down the words and learn.
Because you were cool if you knew them.
Yeah, if you knew, you're the coolest kids, knew all the goddamn words. Okay. Quill fights Ego with his newfound celestial powers to distract him long enough for the other Guardians and Mantis to escape. Groot plants on the brain. He plants the bomb on the brain. The bomb explodes, killing Ego and disintegrating the planet. Quill loses his celestial powers soon after Ego's death. Yondu sacrifices himself to save Quill and dies in the vacuum of space. Another heart-wrenching moment.
Well, before we get there, we know the sacrifice is coming because Rocket says to Yondu, I have this and this. I only have one of each.
Right.
And Yondu says, give it to me and I'll do it. And Rocket knows what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, dog. And then Yondu's like, let me do one thing right.
Yeah.
And that right there,
that's
that
moment.
I started to tear up right there.
Yeah.
Let me do one thing right. I was like,
and then when Chris Pratt, realizes what he's doing for him, like the emotion in his voice, again, a good actor,
Yeah.
And there's these moments that are,
it's like basically, he's losing his quote unquote father figure,
his real father. Yeah.
I mean, he's been his only father figure since his mom died.
He's a blue guy. And we're getting emotional about a blue guy.
And there's also the bit where Gamora's like, we're not leaving without Quill, and she's about to go load up and go back in for him, and Rocket knocks her out.
Yeah.
Because he can only stand to lose one.
He says, I'm only losing one.
Yeah, that moment too. I can only lose one friend. Yeah, that was another emotional moment. Yeah. So yeah, Yondu sacrifices and saves Quill, back in space. Welcome to and then we hit the line, welcome to the frickin' Guardians of the Galaxy. Only he didn't use frickin'. Like Groot said, we got to talk about your language,
Hey, whoa.
But I love during that big battle, Quill turns into Pac-Man for a second when he's fighting him. Like
that's what he's saying when he gets the powers in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna build some weird shit.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
build some
he
weird
does
shit.
say,
Well, yeah, he said Pac-Man and some
And
other
Heather Locklear.
Heather Locklear. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's so funny. Anyway, having reconciled with Gamora, Nebula still chooses to leave and resume her quest to kill Thanos by herself. The Guardians hold the funeral for Yondu, which Kraglin and dozens of Ravager ships attend, acknowledging Yondu's sacrifice and accepting him as a Ravager again. We know he did have the lights. You know, he said, "You'll never have the lights. You'll never have the real funeral," and he had it. And
I
then
know.
they're
And
all
I
excited.
cried. I'm
That's
not
another-
ashamed to say I
Yeah.
cried.
Yeah, another
Full
sweet moment.
on in the middle of my day on my couch, mid Christmas movies. Pause for Guardians, and I'm
Yeah.
full on crying at this point.
See, it's
And
an
see-
emotional movie, right?
Yeah, and you were just
I
saying.
never said it wasn't.
But you're also saying Guardians are not your favorite. You don't even
It's
like
not
it.
my
Right.
favorite, but this movie did
But
a
it made you
very
cry.
good job.
Yeah.
This movie did a very good job of all the things I like, but there are things I like. There's just never been my favorite franchise. I like the banter, I like the friendships. That's it's, but there's so many franchises to choose from. It's just
That's
never
true.
been my favorite.
Yeah, there is a lot. And that's a good problem to have. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Sylvester Stallone had said the colors of Ogord will never flash over your grave and you'll never hear the horns of freedom. And so he got both of those things. The colors of Ogord.
And the character Stallone is Stakar Ogord in the comics. That's his name,
Okay.
aka Starhawk.
Starhawk, yeah.
But they don't.
And are we
call
gonna
him
have a
Starhawk in
Starhawk
this.
movie? Do we know? Or
I
not?
think this group of the Let's Steal Some Shit, the new Stallone group. I think they will show up in Guardians 3. I don't know if that
Okay.
means they're going to hand the
It
franchise
felt
over
like
to
they
them
were.
or
Yeah.
what. But they can't just leave that as nothing.
I mean,
if-
Sylvester
that's-
Stallone is no spring chicken.
He is not, but he's also Stallone.
I'm about to
Then he
say
also
he's
doesn't have to do a
not,
lot of-
and his acting skills are questionable.
But then he doesn't also have to do a lot of act. Like even Michael Rooker, like Yondu didn't do a lot of. There's not a lot of action. You know what I mean? So it's not like he can be in the movie, but he's not like they're like Ravagers. They're not. They're mostly gun heavy. You know, sure you may have someone who may fight, but they're not
Yeah.
getting out doing cartwheels.
Yeah, they're trying to
backflipping.
steal shit. All they're
Yeah.
doing is trying
Yeah.
to boost shit. So,
Let's
So all you
steal
gotta
some
do is
shit.
sit in the chair. You know.
but I mean, if we can get a group, like I would take just one movie. It could be a standalone. It doesn't have to be a trilogy, considering Stallone's age. But if we can get Stallone and Michelle Yeoh and Ving
Ving
Rhames,
Rhames, yes.
fucking Ving Rhames, and
Oh, yeah.
Michael Rosenbaum is Martinex.
Yep.
Yeah, those are great.
And that little mainframe face is fucking Miley Cyrus's voice.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they'll get her back for something, but that's
funny.
a group. I would like to see
Yep.
their adventures as well.
That'd be a great movie or show.
And they're based on the original version of the Guardians of the Galaxy from the
Yeah,
comics.
I want more of this kind of weird shit. During the funeral, Gamora admits she loves Peter and they become a couple, according to this Wikipedia thing.
Mhm.
You know, they kind of put their arms around each other. And then in a series of mid and post credit scenes, Kraglin takes up Yondu's telekinetic arrow and control Finn and, hits Drax with it. He's like, "Ah!" Ravager leader Stakar Ogord reunites with his ex-teammates that we were just talking about. Aisha creates a new artificial being with whom she plans to destroy the Guardians, naming him Adam. And I
Mhm.
think we alluded to that in the last episode. Adam
Warlock.
we
Yeah,
think that
that's
he's going to be in 3.
Yeah, we've seen a clip of him in the trailer for Guardians 3,
Okay.
and it'll be interesting to see what they do with him.
And he's
Yep.
played by
Some guy whose face I don't like.
not the guy who played not the guy who played Miles in Frasier.
No,
Miles.
he's the guy who played the kid in that We're the Millers movie.
And he's also
Yeah.
in Detroit as a racist cop.
In what?
Detroit.
Oh,
Oh, he does play racist cop. You're right.
yeah.
What's
he-
Detroit? Is that a
It's a
show?
TV
A
show.
movie? Oh, TV
It's a movie.
Show.
Movie?
It's a
No, it's a
movie
movie.
show.
Movie.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It was a movie.
I feel like it was a show, but you're right.
Oh.
Oh.
Art Star's right, and TBJ
Whoa.
admitted it.
2017 film
Whoa.
directed by Catherine Bigelow.
Whoa.
Director of The Hurt Locker. Will Poulter is the guy's name.
I like how we
Okay.
never knew him, but we were just naming movies.
And-
We're like that kid.
Anthony Mackie and John Boyega.
I know who those two are.
Those guys are in it as well.
Falcon
Yep.
and the Stormtrooper.
It's a
guy.
pretty good
And yeah,
movie. It's just
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
those things that's hard to watch.
It's called Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit.
Mhm.
Jeez, I've never heard of it. I've never heard of anything. Okay, Groot has grown into a teenager in the post.
Oh, I love that scene.
And a group of uninterested watchers abandoned their informant who was discussing his experiences on Earth, who was
Stanley.
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 Hey,
Yeah.
fellas, I got so many more stories to tell.
Yeah,
Oh, Stanley.
Stanley. Was that just a
But that sort of that sequence, because we see him briefly earlier where he's talking about, this
Yep.
time I was a FedEx guy. Sort of like this is Stanley tying all his cameos into
Oh.
being the
Yep.
same character,
I
sort
didn't
of.
catch that.
He was the FedEx guy
Yep.
at the end of Civil War who said,
Right.
are
yeah.
you Tony Stank?
Stank. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And,
I didn't catch
Yeah, we
him
catch
saying
them
that,
when they're
yeah.
doing all their planet jumping. We catch it first.
So I mean, there's probably nothing to be made of that other than just a cute little thing of Stanley being more
Yeah.
important than just his silly cameos.
But the Groot teenager bit was funny.
Yeah. I'm Groot.
Because I mean, even in the holiday special, spoiler alert for TBJ, Groot's even
You can
older than
spoil it.
that. He's like a
College.
young,
It's like a
It's
Groot
college.
it's like a teenage Groot that has filled out.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he's
no,
like,
in
he's
this,
gone
well,
out
this
for the
one,
wrestling team.
I wouldn't say he's a college age Groot in the holiday special. So he's
so he's
probably
not super tall yet, but he's big.
probably mid-20s. I mean, early. Well, I guess he's still a teen, like teen.
You can be 18,
21.
19,
Yeah.
20.
Yeah. He's
He's
a
Jock Groot.
swole Groot.
Anyway, I think the holiday special was good. I think it was
Mhm.
good.
I'll
So,
watch it. We can talk about it next week.
yeah,
Yeah.
see what you think.
It's
All right.
yeah.
Well,
I'm still catching up on all my Christmas movies that I missed. so.
And we got Guardians 3 coming out, which promises to be a real
Yeah,
gut
so
puncher.
Guardians 3 is the one that comes out after Quantumania, right?
Yeah.
it comes out May, right? This May.
And that's
Yeah, man.
that's the other thing I wanted to tie in to our earlier talk about, how phase 4 has kind of been scattered a bit, but what I've heard about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is that the previous 2 Ant-Man movies have come after like big Avengers movies and
Mhm.
have been sort of like palate cleansers. Like it was the end of the phase 2. Was it the first Ant-Man? Have we done the second Ant-Man yet? Or is that part of phase
No.
4?
Well, this is
Remember.
because this is the beginning, right?
No, I don't think so.
So it's like,
But this
it's
is like
Have we?
the director has said, I want this Ant-Man 3 to be the big Avengers movie rather than having to just be like the little
The palate
comedy thing
cleanser.
that cleans
well,
it
that's
up.
Okay.
because you're introduced to the big bad.
Yeah.
So it's like how the Avengers, they was teasing Thanos. Where
Right.
this there's no teasing. It's like, hey, Jonathan Majors here.
We
fuck
got
with me.
Kang. We got goddamn Kang the Conqueror in full Kang the Conqueror form. I mean, he was in Loki,
Yeah,
but he was
a version.
it was a version of him. But this is what the version in Loki was
And
warning
it's
against.
like I'm kind of curious as to will we see other variants in this?
And there's
Yeah.
also a lot of talk about MODOK being in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but maybe in some.
And
You see-
Andy has a boingy boinger for MODOK.
I do. I got a big MODOK t-shirt. I feel solidarity with characters with giant weird heads.
Well,
So-
everybody called you Modoc, and well,
That's true.
I called you Modoc in school, like growing up.
Yeah.
But do you guys think I could go watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3 when it comes out without going through everything and catching up? Like just going to see it, or is it?
Well, here's the
We
thing.
might,
Here's
be,
Joe.
we might be in a good spot because remember we watched most of Phase 4. the
We
TV.
haven't Infinity War. And
I mean, we got to
Endgame
get through
are a
that, but it's
big
coming out in May.
thing, a
It's
big development for the
January.
Guardians.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
So I need to.
We've got a
Well, it's
few
not
months.
coming out till May, right?
Yeah, we got time.
remember
Yeah,
when
I
I
mean, we're
was
only in
just thinking, like,
January, so
But look
Just
how
got-
long it
if
takes
we
us to
can get
through 'em.
together enough,
If we can get through the next phase 3 film, Spider-Man: Homecoming,
yeah.
then Thor Ragnarok and Black Panther, then we get to Infinity War.
Yeah.
And that's and then of course Endgame.
Oh,
and
shit.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, we haven't done that yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
we
thought
think
Ragnarok was next.
It's possible. We might
That's
not
why
be
you was
far
watching
off.
Ragnarok.
Yeah, I thought Ragnarok was next, and I was
I
watching it
love
this week, so I
Ragnarok.
missed Spider-Man: Homecoming. So I have to go back and watch that.
I mean, we could do Thor Ragnarok
But-
next and just jump back to
Well,
Homecoming.
No,
did you
we're
like?
good.
Did you
It's
like
fine.
Ragnarok?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't like give it the
Ragnarok
full
is another
treatment.
one that comes on a whole hell of a lot.
It does come on TV. a
I
lot.
will say my hopes were way up because everybody talks about how great it is. So I think it was a little less than I expected because everybody's like, "Oh, Ragnarok's the best one." It was good, but I don't know. I don't like.
I think it's
Hemsworth with short hair.
Comparable to the other one, the other three.
Yeah, but
it is the
yeah,
best
definitely
one.
better than the other Thors. I loved him and Hulk. That whole thing was great.
Yeah,
and
that's
funny.
what most people love about it. It's like a buddy comedy.
Yeah, I love it.
Plus Jeff Goldblum.
And
Yeah.
you got, I will say, yeah, Jeff
Are you
Goldblum's
from
funny.
Asgard?
And I love the Valkyrie.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
She's awesome. I don't know who that is, but
Tessa Thompson.
who's that? What's her name?
Tessa Thompson.
I love her. I love her. Like she's awesome. So yeah. And yeah, does she come back in? Well, we don't have to talk about that.
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, she's later. Okay, anyway. Yeah, she's cool and that was good, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and I would say, or 2. I loved it. I give it 80 stars. It's the best Marvel movie of all time.
It's pretty damn good. I
I give it 8.5 boinky boinkers out of 10.
We have no legitimate rating scale.
All right, Art gives them
Just-
boners. Andy
Did
gives
you
them.
just say 8.5? Boingy
8.5.
boingers.
8.5 boinky boinkers. 8.5. A hard 9.
Something's wrong with you guys. I don't know how I associate with him.
It gave
Yeah.
TBJ tears. So she
Yeah.
It
loves
did give me tears. It's a good movie. So I'll give it a thumbs up. I won't rate it.
There we go.
Yeah, two wonderful thumbs up for this movie. I'm a sucker for the Guardians movies because these are based on comics I was reading rather avidly when they were
Well, and
first doing it.
I
And that's another thing with the Guardians 3 is that we see them in the uniforms that the actual Guardians, they all have a uniform now
comic,
that were from the comics that I was initially reading back when they were this version of them were kind of forming. Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning putting these characters together when they hadn't really had anything to do with each other before.
No, I'll say
One of the
I will read their comic. I think I'll read the comics now.
It's a bit different. Star-Lord is not quite that guy.
Yeah. I read the first one already, but yeah.
Okay.
Art, what were you gonna say?
One of the things about these, like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, for me, is like I love the soundtrack. Like the soundtracks,
It does sound
like
good.
like a lot of times I watch what you guys may consider bad movies because the soundtrack speaks to me. You know, like
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Top
Did the
Gun,
Barbarella
even though-
soundtrack speak to you? Did
Who?
the
Who?
Barbarella soundtrack speak to you?
Nah,
'Cause
nah,
that's trash.
Well, that wasn't my movie. That was Joe.
I know it was Joe's movie.
I don't
Trust
remember the
me,
music
It's
in
in
that.
it's ingrained right here. Who picked that damn movie?
But like
Steve
like,
Gruff from the Gruff and Loud Show made me pick that movie.
a lot of
Yeah,
movies
but I mean,
he
that
didn't tell me
watch
to, but
is
he was
because of
talking
the
about it.
soundtrack. You
I
know,
was
like the like
embarrassed.
I'll listen, like, okay, this soundtrack's awesome. Let me watch the movie. Well, this is one of those things where like every time it comes on, like I could be watching, it could be in the middle of the movie. I'll start watching it. That's because like the music is going to make me feel happy. You know,
Yeah,
that's my happy place. Is,
So ode
is
to good music
movie
directors.
soundtrack.
Yeah, that's a
Judgment
huge
Night.
thing with like Tarantino movies. I would
Yeah.
one of the things they do really well is a great soundtrack. There's the bit at the end of Kill Bill Volume 1 where Uma
Mhm.
Thurman is facing off against Lucy Liu, and like they're just like doing sword shit, but that's Please Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood.
Yep.
That version of it is just playing and just making that work. The same thing with like the first Deadpool movie
Yeah.
when I knew I was gonna like it because I really loved the early not the Liefeld early but the Joe Kelly Deadpool run that kind of transitioned Deadpool into being like some shit show Spider-Man ripoff into the weird unique character he is, and that opening scene of just like that freeze frame of this ridiculous action shot being looked at from all angles to
Mhm.
You're My Angel in the Morning, the Juice Newton or
I think it is Juice Newton. You're my angel in the morning, darling.
Juice Newton. Yeah, that was like I had a period of time where I wanted to be the one to write a Deadpool trilogy, and like I made script notes and shit like that. And that's one of the major things that it was going to have to have a like a soundtrack that is that kind of thing. So Deadpool made it where Guardians of the Galaxy sold all these weird ass concepts by having such a kick-ass soundtrack and
A
having
good music director goes
yeah.
a long way. I think people
Absolutely does.
underestimate the role that music plays in film, even when it's not a soundtrack. Even when you look at just a score of a movie,
Mhm.
music changes everything. So shout
Yeah,
out to
yeah.
whoever is doing Marvel soundtracks or music directing in each
Right.
movie, because they are doing it.
Especially the
Yeah.
Guardians movies in
Yeah.
particular do a great job of it.
Well, and before we go, we forgot to mention when we're talking about wrestlers that made movies that we all can agree the greatest wrestler to ever make a movie is Greg the Hammer Valentine in 2013 Swim.
What?
So there was a movie called Swim.
We
2013.
can all agree.
Yeah, the Greg the Hammer Valentine is the greatest wrestler to ever be in a movie.
I don't know if we all agree, Joe, but sure.
Greg the Hammer
I want
Valentine.
to say it's
Roddy
What's his
Piper
name?
and They Live,
what
or
you
Hell
call
Comes to
it?
Frogtown.
David Arquette.
He doesn't
Does he-
count.
does
He
he
was an
count as a
actor
wrestler?
first. He
He
was a
acted
WCW
first,
world champion.
Tried
He
to
has
wrestle.
wrestled, and
Chris
he has done
Jericho's a
a,
rock star, right?
he's also done a wrestling movie. Fozzy.
He's a rock musician that is a wrestling star.
Okay.
I'm pretty
It's
sure
a
he's
lot.
not a rock
There's
star.
there's a lot there's a lot of wrestlers who were rock musicians. Like Brody King has a really good band.
I don't know who
The
that
Doctor
is.
Style Slick sang his own song.
The Doctor Style Slick, baby.
Our Truth's a rapper.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Okay, I
Rate,
just
review, subscribe, tell your friends, everybody. If every listener tells
Yes, I have to hold on. I do
5,000
have.
friends.
I have to read you. Someone did say something to us.
Oh, really?
Let me go. Hold on.
Is there a new review? I
They
should
were
read?
listening to us, and they were thanking us for a breakdown in a movie. There it is. Da-da-da-da. She has two things to tell you. First, I had Wonder Woman under rules, and Paul had Superman under rules. That's her husband. Therefore, I think it was meant to be. So she's just saying her and her husband were meant to be nerds. And then she says, "Thanks for the explanation of Ben Riley. I'm embarrassed because a friend of mine had the last name Spivey. Her son is Ben, and her daughter is Riley. And in the group, someone said, Ben and Riley Spivey, I guess you're Spivey. Senses are tingling, and everybody in the room laughed except for me. Now I get it. I feel empowered by my nerd school friends.
Yay.
Awesome.
And isn't that the goal? So,
Absolutely.
there
That
you
is
go.
the goal. Empower nerds. That's great. Thank you.
See,
What's
we're
the
helping
person-
everybody.
What's the poster's name?
Karen.
Karen.
It's a
Shout out to
Karen.
Karen.
Yeah, shout out
Yes.
Karen.
Karen was the one where we when we were at Heroes Con. Remember we met the teenage girls?
Ah, okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad we could help.
Yeah,
in
that's
some way.
great.
And speaking of Spivey senses, the next movie is Spider-Man: Homecoming.
There you go.
So we get the
So we'll get into that,
MCU's
yeah.
first Spider-Man movie.
I'm excited
Boom,
about that.
pow. Ready.
And we will have it to you very soon, nerds. So please
Swick.
give us some
This is me,
stars
so
on
inspired.
there and fill out a
And I'm
review if you
doing
have a
Switch
chance. But tell your friends about the Nerd School. Tell them
Swag,
Listen.
swick.
Listen, we're pretty dope.
we are pretty dope. We'll end it on that.
We're dopey and pretty.
Not dopey.
I'm dopey.
Okay, I'm dope.
I'm dopey, sneezy, and Doc.
They say I can't rap about the president no more, but evidently they don't see we in the streets still poor. Still more incarceration of my kinsmen by the prisons, and people thinking this election to end in racism. Proud over pessimism, glad to see Obama, but don't expect me not to speak out when I still see problems, Mr. Officer. Now they POTUS look like me, you gon' think again when seeing brothers rolling down the street. Every Martin Luther King on his American dream, still a Roddy Rodney being beaten, screaming fuck the police. Me, I'm running through the pasture, trying to get away from master. But the dogs is on my ass, I gotta move a little faster. Can't pass for Caucasian, but I got a couple papers from the plantation saying I graduated. Congratulations, cool beans, but to most school mean trying to dodge STDs, living off government cheese. Trust the government, please. Not even if it was me, sitting in the Oval Office as commander-in-chief, trying to give us free. But there's a nigga in my ear saying, you got it, Superman, you ought to keep it here. Get this distinctly clear, I'm all about jetting. Raps Kunta Kinte without the half-stepping. A new chapter, back with new lessons. After that, the final exam. Any questions?
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.